features a pretty unusual yet small cast, and the book features... Hi, my name's Romy and this is my baby Casta. After reading Undone, I struggled through about 4 different books trying to work out what I wanted to read next, and nothing was clicking. I was just going through books, not wanting to read them, very disinterested, but really wanting to read something brilliant. And I picked up another book from my 10 I've set aside to read this year, The Three Loves of Persimmon by Cassandra Golds, and that's what I bring you today, my review of this very, very magical, interesting book. I completely forgot to mention whilst doing this review how much I adore this cover. It is definitely one of my favourites. It's just so detailed. I do not know what the significance of that person in the window is though. I first read this book back in, I think, 2010, and then again in 2014, and now in 2019. And it's one that is... it's just very interesting. This is a really hard book to explain. The Three Loves of Persimmon follows Persimmon, a very lovely girl who is ousted by her family. Her family is split down the middle with the vegetable lovers and the flower lovers. And Persimmon, brought up by vegetable lovers, really loves flowers. But a dead clairvoyant relative gives her an inheritance and buys her a flower shop, and Persimmon is basically forsook by her entire family for following her heart. And this really weighs on Persimmon throughout the book. She follows her heart. She adores flowers and books and things that she thinks of as nonsense, things that she's been brought up to think weren't worthwhile. And throughout the book she kind of refers to these things that she's passionate about as being really important to her, but not of any great means. And that's really sad because books are fantastic and flowers are gorgeous, and it's just really sad to have this character who's so talented and wonderful going through life thinking that everything she loves is worthless because she was brought up to think that way. So she follows her heart and she continues on with what she does, but she doubts it all of the time. The relative who bought Persimmon her flower shop was apparently clairvoyant in life, and she sends Persimmon letters throughout the book, setting her off on a quest to find true love, because apparently that's what Persimmon needs to be happy. Not sure if I agree with that, but that's how the story goes, and Persimmon kind of just happily goes on it without really minding too much either way. The book is set predominantly in a railway station where Persimmon's flower shop is, and also follows a tiny little mouse called Epiphany who lives on the railway station and dreams of following her heart and adventuring beyond what she knows. That little mouse reminds me so much of a little mouse I know. This little mouse. The way Epiphany is described is so similar to how my little Squeak is, so I was just spending the book imagining Squeak going on these grand adventures and following her heart wherever it led her. The book features a pretty unusual yet fairly small cast, and another very interesting player in this very interesting book is Rose, an ornamental cabbage who talks. And oddly enough, I was out shopping yesterday and I found this. This is my new plant, Henrietta. She's beautiful, and I feel she's so similar to Rose. There's a lot of emotion in this little plant. So I named her Henrietta, and she's my new friend. You like Henrietta, Casta? So as I was reading The Three Loves of Persimmon, I had a few conflicting thoughts. I so enjoy this story. It's, again, like nothing I've read before, and that is a really captivating feeling. It's written so beautifully. Every word is chosen with care, it seems, and everything has meaning, and it's just so wonderful. But for the first time in my memory, I actually was noticing things that I wasn't a big fan of. Like Persimmon being put on this quest to find true love, which is a really big part of the book. I mean, it's what it's named after. And that being kind of her way of finding happiness at last and fulfillment grated against me. And again, this was a book that had leading female characters and yet a predominantly male supporting cast. Persimmon's only regular normal interactions were with Rose, her ornamental cabbage. And Rose is great. And Rose is referred to throughout the book as a she. But Rose is also a cabbage. There is another female character who comes in, meets Persimmon, and won't speak to her because I think she's jealous. And that's the entirety of their relationship, and nothing ever gets said about that. There is, of course, Persimmon's clairvoyant relative, Aunt Lily, who writes her notes telling her what to do that Persimmon can't really respond to. And then there is her landlady who takes care of her when she's sick at one point, and that's it. The rest of them are all guys. And also, Aunt Lily assumes that Persimmon, who I don't think is ever supposed to have been in a relationship, or it's never mentioned that she's been in a relationship or fallen in love before this, is straight. She mentions her needing to go off and find a man, and then her life will be complete, kind of thing. And that grated against me because that's not the only way things go. So on the queer female interaction and diversity scale, it's really lacking, this book, and those are things, like I have said before, that are really important to me. And when books don't contain those things, I struggle a bit. So aside from these some small and pretty darn big and important things that kind of grated against me during this reading, I generally really enjoyed the Three Loves of Persimmon. It gives me such a feeling. It feels as if it's a period novel somehow, and you know it's not, but you're almost tricked into thinking it is. It feels very Austen-y, and I love Austen. It also has the same kind of quirky humour as you find in kind of, I guess, Regency period. Don't know if that's the same thing or two completely different time periods. Is the period even a period? I'm not sure. Anyway, it has a very similar kind of quirkiness and way of writing humour that just felt very familiar to that time period. And I really enjoyed that. I think that's something that's very distinct of a period in time when books were written that were period books. And that's a kind of humour and quirkiness that I really enjoy. There's definitely a lack of talking cabbages, talking mice, and talking Highland terriers in period books though, which you will find in the Three Loves of Persimmon by Cassandra Golds. Going back, another thing that I found really strange and that I had never noticed before with a kind of strange religious element. There's a scene where Persimmon's talking to someone as they walk through botanical gardens, and they see some figures watching them from a tree, and they're supposed to be angels. And that was very odd, and then they fly off. And that kind of seemed really odd and out of place and unexplained. The colony of mice who live on Platform 1 also seem to have a grasp of religion that's not really explained how they have that. And I'm not sure if it was Persimmon or Epiphany the mouse, but they were talking about, there was this conversation about what a good person would do, and it's referred to what a Christian would do, but then also whoever it is says, but someone who's atheist or agnostic would do it too, because it's just like the right thing to do or whatever. And I appreciated that, but then there were these other kind of like references to the Bible and that angel scene, and there's also this scene that is kind of a twisted take on the Adam and Eve story, which I just don't know how that fit in. It was never really explained. So it kind of just seemed to stand out and feel odd. Persimmon is a character I like a lot, and I think when I would have read this previously, I would have likened myself to her a lot. Not so much anymore, but I can see traits that I have had in the past and some that I have now within her. She is a character I like a lot, but I feel sad for Persimmon because she just doesn't trust herself. She's so full of love and hope and honesty and caring, but she doesn't think what she does is good enough or is important or worthwhile. And you can see her start to rely on people, and her reliance on other people really carries her more than her reliance on herself. She gets joy from the expression of others whilst not necessarily thinking the joy from her own creativity is up to standard, and that's really sad. And I wish she had come into her own a little and got happiness just as much from herself as from anyone who was around her. Finally, I feel like, and this kind of goes back to the fact I feel like it's kind of a period novel, it feels like it was cut too short. I felt like I was in the middle of the story still and there was so much still to go, and suddenly it's over, and that was a shame. When you're reading something like Austen, it kind of sprawls on, and sometimes it feels like it sprawls on a little bit too long, but this did not sprawl whatsoever. I think it was just over 200 pages, and coming from reading a 500-page novel before that, this felt so quick, and it's enjoyable reading something so quick, but I just wish it had been that bit longer. This is the end, and I wish it had been here. So those were my thoughts on The Three Loves of Persimmon by Cassandra Golds, and now I have to find a book to read, and I'm not sure what it's going to be. It might just be another one from the pile. This might just be my year. I will only read those books and not be able to find anything else to read because I know I've got favourites waiting. So that is The Three Loves of Persimmon by Cassandra Golds. And now it is time for me to go and have my lunch before I fall over.